Hello there. This is Cheryl with Sew Glue and Cheryl 2. Just wanted to come on real quick, and if you see the red button at the top, you see that I'm live. You caught me live. If you don't see that red button, hashtag replay in the comments and let me know that you've been watching. So that's Brandy. She's a Great Pyrenees and has to be with me a lot, all the time, mostly. So we're going to give it a second to let some friends join. I'm going to get logged into the computer so I can see the comments. We'll get, got to get the sound out of there. All right. And so hopefully the comments will start rolling here in a minute, and we'll give it just a minute for some friends to join. And today I'm hopeful to be able to share a little bit about what I have spent about 20 years of my crafting was paper crafting. And so I did a lot of scrapbooking. And so I want to kind of I wanted to show that to you because 20 years is a lot. I didn't realize it until I started thinking about it. And then the last 2 years that I have been crafting, I have started to kind of explore out and do like the multimedia stuff. So, having, different plates and things like that. And you've seen some of that stuff that I've posted, online. And so I wanted to kind of take a moment and share with you a little bit about what I had been doing, today. And the reason I'm going live so early is that I have a girls crafting day that we do once a month on a Saturday, and today is one of those days. And I don't know, because being able to go live is still new to me in this month, and so I've not had a crafting day where I had an opportunity that I could go live. So I have to kind of check with them to see first if they'd be willing to allow me to go live during a crafting day so you could kind of see what everybody's working on. And if I can, maybe I'll go live on the fly today. So we'll see. But I didn't want to set that expectation and then not be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is show you a little bit about what I have been working on for the first 20 years of my crafting life. And I really enjoy paper crafting. That is something that I have a lot of fun with, but after 20 years, you could understand there's a little bit of burnout. So, let me give you a little bit of history. When I started this is my son's scrapbook. And let me move my water bottle out of the way because I know I'd end up knocking it over. So this is my son's scrapbook. And I decided instead of using just the 12 by 12 scrapbook, I decided to do it like in an 8.5 by 11 size paper. It was a little bit easier for me to manage. It was a little bit easier because at that point in time when I first started, all I had was like the colored paper that you do kids craft with and things like that. And so I started there, and then I started to grow and build that skill. And as you do something, you continue to develop your skill and you just get a little bit better. So you'll see kind of that progression throughout this book with the start of my son's life. And so I decided to use a 3-ring binder. This is like, I think it's like a 3-inch, if not bigger, maybe a 4-inch. I don't know. Let's measure that real quick. 3.5 inch. 3.5-inch binder. And so I decided to, and then with those, then I put them in paper protectors. So there's sheet protectors that you can buy for the 3-ring binders is what I decided I was going to do. Come on in, join us, and let me know that you're here. I'm going over the scrapbooking journal or binder or book that I had created for my son. I've been scrapbooking for about 20 years, and it's paper crafting is probably my first love, but got a little burnt out after 20 years and decided to explore other forms of crafting with multimedia stuff. And so I started that. This is, so the 3-ring binder, I decided to do the 8.5 by 11 because the 12 by 12s I did not have at that time. And I didn't know much about scrapbooking at that time. But what I did was I took the 3.5-inch binder and then I created the front page for him. I created this a little bit later, after I had built some pages and decided that I needed a front cover. And so I used some letters that I cut out with the Cricut. I had some scissors that do some, and I don't know, you probably can't see it because, I had some scissors that had the edging. So I cut out the pieces with the edging, and then I put a couple pictures kind of framed with some scrapbook. I'm not going to go through every page and explain that, but I just wanted to show you. You'll see the progression of skill because I think it's pretty obvious. I was not very good in the beginning, but and I didn't have all of the tools. So this page I decided to put into my son's book. This was me pregnant, and this was actually at Christmas, right before he ended up being born. I wasn't very large. I was only 7 months pregnant, and all I had were pages of magazines. And so I started with that. And 20 years ago, we don't have all of the tools that we had, that we have now. But as the years progressed, I was able to acquire some of those things. And so I had cut out words out of the magazines. I had some stickers, and then I ended up handwriting some journaling stuff, which I know is kind of common now, and I'll get closer. So, and all I used was a piece of construction paper because that's all I had at that point in time. I stuck it's not his birth certificate, but the temporary birth certificate before you get it in the mail from the hospital in here. And then I started building pages, and this thing is heavy. So, that page ended up being a little bit more. So this page was one of the first few pages I had, and I don't know, I think I had a piece of paper or like a scrapbook kit that had this because the blue baby boy was already on the paper, and these are just stickers. And then I had some stencils that I just stenciled his name with a picture. My son was born at 29 weeks. He was born 2 months premature. And so you can kind of see the skill, the differences in skill. So this is when I actually had a Cricut. So I cut the large B out, and then the hospital had given us some photos of him while he was in the hospital. So I stuck them there. Some, they were not created in order until later. As I found the photos, I would create the pages. So then this is one of the earlier pages that I had created, was I had some pictures of him in the hospital. He spent the first 2 months in the hospital in the NICU. And maybe at a later time, I'll tell you the whole story or the whole testimony about that. But God really stepped up and saved his life, because being born at 2 months premature, there's a lot of things that aren't developed. His lungs weren't developed when he was born. He was 1 pound, 12 ounces. And these pages have all of the stats in it. And as he was growing, I kind of started taking the photos and recording that part, because he was truly a miracle. He had 3 holes in his heart, his lungs were underdeveloped, and he had a subdural hematoma. So you want to talk about miracles. He is truly a miracle baby. God stepped in. The surgeons were preparing to do surgery on his heart first, and then they were going to have to go in and get rid of that hematoma on his brain. And the day before, I think they were taking, my husband tells the story, I think they were taking x-rays and scans of him, and they couldn't find the holes in his heart, and the subdural hematoma had healed itself. And so that was truly a sign of God working some miracles in our lives. And my parents then arrived shortly after Blake was born, and they got a chance shortly after, 2 months after. We were not allowed, well, I take that back, a month later. We were not allowed for the first month of his life to hold him. He was so small, and he needed so much medical attention that he spent his first month in the isolate. And then my parents ended up coming out, and I asked my mom to help me out, and she created some scrapbook pages for his book of them here helping us out and holding him. He had to have like kangarooing in his second month of his life. He was able to come out of the isolate, hold his body temperature, but then for that connection and that bond, they let us kangaroo, where you go skin to skin, where he all he had was his diaper on, and we took off our shirts, and it didn't matter who it was, whether it was me, my husband, my mom, or my dad. We took off our shirts, and we had they put a warm blanket around us, and then we held him close to our chest. And if you've ever had to do that or been through that, that's the first time we got to hold our child. And so God was good, because he gave us his life, and that is in a miracle itself. And so we were super excited to be able to hold him for the first time when we were doing the kangarooing. And then as I started to progress through those pages, you could see this is me talking about the kangarooing. I stenciled the words, and then we had pictures, of course, of him as he was kangarooing both me and my husband. And then I had some stickers that were baby stickers or punch outs or something that I ended up gluing down, stenciling the words. And when he was in the NICU, the only thing that he could receive while in the hospital was stuffed animals. And they could only be a certain size. If they were too big, we had to take them home. So people sent stuffed animals galore. This child has a large Rubbermaid bin to this day of those stuffed animals. He holds them true, special, because of the fact that those were his first gifts. And so this page, I kind of talk a little bit about the stuffed animals, and the nurses in the NICU were just so wonderful with the fact that they would write us little notes, Post-it notes on his progression, what happened the night. Some nights where when my husband and I first started caring for him, we would do it together, and we would go home, get some rest for a few hours, and then come back. And the nurses would like write us little Post-it notes. And I don't know if I have a note that they wrote on the next page, and these are just different cards so they would give you like a card on his progression, if he gained weight, those kinds of things. So I started saving some of those things and added it to a scrapbook. And I had a piece of paper, like, they had bears around it. And so I decided to use that and put the pictures on. And then, of course, I journaled in my own handwriting. And then this is just an example. I saved this. It was Valentine's Day. And because my son was born on January 1st. And on Valentine's Day, they wrote this note on that he had, everything was a moment. Everything was a big deal. So if he had a large poo in his diaper, those kinds of things, those are, and it's probably too much information, but they let us know, because all of those things were signs of him developing, his systems building, and he's getting healthier. And so they let us know. And we had received, so one of the things that during Valentine's Day, the kids in the hospital, their parents, so the NICU is full of kids, and so they would bring Valentine's Day cards, and they would hand out Valentine's Day cards, and the nurses did the same thing. And it was just really sweet to receive all of those gifts of little mini loves and hugs, especially when you're going through such a challenging time. And so I saved all of those Valentines, because those were special. And they had little notes in them at the bottom. You can't really read it, but it said, "Mommy and Daddy, we are so proud. We love you always, forever." So that was one of the nurses that had written that from Blake to us. And so I saved all of those and put it with the note that the nurses had written. And then he finally, about midway into the second month, they allowed us to give him a bath, because before he was so small. And when we started to get comfortable with kangarooing and caring for him, because of the fact that he was 1 pound 12 ounces, they decided to allow us to give him a bath. And so you can see, again, I stenciled the letters "bath time," and then I had a couple pictures that they took of us when we were giving him a bath. And so that ended up being one of the first times. And I saved so they had little certificates of achievement that they would share with us. And then, and you start getting into some of the pages where I started to learn a little bit more about scrapbooking, some of the opportunities to be able to, I was gifted a Cricut for Christmas. And so, I was able to start kind of building pages a little bit more from a maturity level of a scrapbooker, because a lot of the pages before that, all I had were stencils to be able to offer, and do writing, things like that. And so this was the first day that we got to bring him home. And the yellow was really hard to read, but it says, Blake's first home. And so I took pictures of the day that we brought him home. And then he was able to start, instead of having a feeding tube, we were able to start giving him the bottle and this is still in the hospital at that point in time. But that's when he was taking the bottle, and it was right before we brought him home. So trying to get all of the pages in correct date order was a little bit of a challenge, but you could see, I had letter stickers here. So it was, I switched on and off on being able to build some of the pages, but we had a foreign exchange student staying with us at that point in time. And so I have pictures of him holding him. This was, his tooth was starting to come in as he was getting a little bit older. So, I mean, you can see, and just the variety of here's the pictures of him at 4th of July. He was still very, very small. Being that he was born 1 pound, 12 ounces, they didn't, the first 2 years of a baby's life being that premature, they don't have the motor skills. And they don't have a lot of the things that are natural when a baby goes to full term at 9 months. There's a lot of things that in the last 2 months of being in the mother's womb, they start learning and developing those motor skills and things like that. Well, he couldn't hold a bottle, so we had to teach him how to hold he couldn't suck. The sucking motion is something that is developed in those last 2 months of baking in the oven kind of thing. And so there was physical therapy. There was all kinds of things that he had to have. He had to have physical therapy to learn how to, sit up. He had to have physical therapy as a baby, how to crawl. He had to have physical therapy to teach him how to walk. Those were all things that, you don't think about until you have a child that is born that early. And so we had splurged and had some professional pictures done for him at the 4th of July, because in the first, after he got home we got his birthday, his actual birthday is January 1st. He was supposed to be born March 4th, and we were able to bring him home on February 28th. So at February 28th, he was 3 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 ounces, I think. And so we were able to bring him home at that time, but we weren't able to go out because he was still very susceptible, didn't have a lot of immune systems, and so we really couldn't go out of the house a lot other than to the doctor's appointments. So we weren't really able to do anything for the first few months because it was still winter, it was cold. And come July, we were excited to be able to. It was warm, the doctors felt it was safe to take him out, so we took him out for a photo session. He did not drink the Coca-Cola. The can was empty. My husband at that time used to love to drink Coca-Cola. He worked for Coca-Cola, so it was just kind of a fun little promotional thing that we did. The can was completely empty, and we were very careful about making sure he didn't cut his lips on the can itself. But that was it turned out really cute, and so I scrapbooked it. This was his first Halloween. We had put him in a little tiger suit, and then this was his first Christmas, where he sat on, and he didn't cry, on Santa's lap. It was years later, as he got older, he cried. Then I have photos of his first birthday, where we gave him some cake. For the most part, even though he was a lot smaller than all of the other kids, he developed just the same as the other kids. But you can tell kind of by the pictures that at a year old, he was still a lot smaller than most of them. And then I made an envelope just kind of built one out of craft paper. And I had one of the birthday cards had kind of this neat little 3D. So I glued that to the front, and I have all of his birthday cards from his first birthday in this, in that folder. So I decided to save them for him. I thought that that would be nice. And this is fully intended. I fully intend to embarrass him when he either gets engaged or at his wedding. I fully intend to bring these out and let people look through them. And he has resigned himself to agreeing to the, okay, I know you're going to do it anyway, so I might as well not fight it. But then this is just some different, this is like the picture of the day of his birthday where he was getting some presents for his birthday. And then he had, this is therapy on this page where he would come. So for the first 2 years of his life, he had to have, we had, I don't know that they call him an occupational therapist or what, but they came to the house because they didn't want him going out into the community to get, because he was still fairly small, growing, a few pounds at a time. And so he might have been at the age, he might have been 10 pounds by the time he was 1, so he's still relatively small from that perspective. And so we had to be really cautious, but, we took him for swimming lessons, as he got a little bit older, and he had the skills developed for walking and crawling, those kinds of things. And they gave us the permission. So at that time, my husband was a hot air balloon pilot. And so when he was ready, we took him out, and my husband, this was one of the balloon rallies that we had here in Boise, Idaho. And so we had taken our son to start getting him used to and acclimating to the hot air ballooning, because that's something that my husband did a lot. We would be with him because I supported him in that, and I was his crew member. And so I was a crew with the baby. And so at that point in time. And so this one is just it has pictures of him eating different foods as he started to get a little bit older in his development. Then we were able to kind of start feeding him regular foods, and he always seemed to manage to get it all over his face. So we had a little pool in the background, or in the backyard. So I took pictures one day of the pool, so you could see. And I have 4 books of these, so I don't intend on going through all of the books, but I did want to show some of these. You can see, I'll skip ahead real quick because, and that's one of the challenges with using a 3-ring binder is that the pages sometimes slip off the book. So let's fix that so we can the pages start slipping off, and there. So what I'll do is I'll skip ahead a little bit, as you can kind of start seeing the progression. And I have 4 of these now. 3 of the first 2 are completely full like this, and the other 2, because I have a variety of photos, and it just depending upon what I was feeling inclined to scrapbook, I would create the pages and then I would stick them in order. And so today I'm going to work on trying to finish up some of the pages that I have left outstanding today in my crafting with the girls, and be able to, I found some little mini hat. Let me show you. These are so fun. I found from cleaning out the craft room the other day. I found the little crocheted hat. So they have a lot of volunteers at the hospital. And so this is one of the first little teeny tiny hats that they put on his head. And then when we got to take him home, we got to put him in this little hat. His head was a little bit bigger at that point in time, but I even saved the crocheted little teeny tiny booties that they had put on him. And so I found some of those things and some of the things that came from the hospital. And so today when I craft with the gals, and here's like, there's a bunch of stuff that I ended up finding that I need to put into the scrapbooks. And so I'm going to find a way to add those to and little teeny tiny, for some reason, when we left the hospital, they gave us a couple things. So this is the tape measure. It's like a sticky tape. It's tape and it's a tape measure. And they have that on the side of his bed to measure him for length. And so they ended up taking that off and sticking it in a bag and setting it with me. These are the little blood pressure cups and things like that they would have wrapped around. And it wasn't around his arm, it was around his thigh when they needed to take, because he was so small. And so if you can, I mean, it's just crazy. And so they gave us all of those. And I just happened to, cleaning out the classroom, find them. And then some other, as he was getting older, I found some pictures, of us. So all things that I need to kind of complete. And I would love to my son is 22 years old. So I think it's time. I mean, I found all of the ultrasounds, and things that aren't necessarily, things that he'd probably care about, but all things that I want to put into the book for him, because I think in the end it'll be something valuable for him. And I did not save all of his teeth. I promise you, I did not save all of his teeth, but his very first tooth that he lost. And so in finding all of this stuff, that's what I intend to do. And kind of trying to complete his books. That's going to end up falling if I don't be careful. And so I, as you can see, kind of through, as I go, the pages getting a little bit more complicated. I end up able to cut letters out of, and this book is so heavy, it's so hard. I can cut letters out of the Cricut. And so you can see, and this is one Halloween, and this one, he was in kindergarten by that time. And so that was Christmas in his kindergarten class. And one of the funny things so he was still small in kindergarten. He was as small, and let me see, you could see comparisons. He was about as small as let's see if I have any of those pictures where his class was. But so he was as small as like a 2-year-old. That's the how tall he was in kindergarten. And you could see the height variation between what a normal term baby was to a premature. And I remember going to the grocery store. We would go grocery shopping. We would take him grocery shopping, and the women within the grocery store, doesn't matter if they were an employee or if they were just another woman grocery shopping, he would be walking with us because he felt riding in the cart was for babies. So he was going to walk with us until he got tired. So he would walk and talk. And you can imagine at the age of 5, him being the size of what a normal or toddler was. I mean, he was maybe 3 foot, 3 foot tall by that point in time. The normal size of a toddler, and talking to us in full sentences because we didn't know at that point in time that and nowadays you know better. You don't talk to your children in baby talk, but we didn't. We talked to him in full sentences. He carried on full conversations as if he were an adult. I guess one of the things that being an only child comes with that. But the doctor said that his intelligence level was increased because he was making up in intelligence for what he doesn't have in his size, in his height, and in his muscle. He had to use his brain. So I guess when it's like the same thing, like if you lose your hearing, your sight and your other things kick into play for your senses. So as you can see, kind of some of the pages get and I don't know if I can find, I know I have a picture of his class for first grade. Let me see if I have that anywhere. But you could just see, and so it was like a novelty. He was a walking novelty. Wherever we went, we had women swooning over him because they would ask him a question and then he would answer them in a full sentence. So they were just, yeah. Apparently that's kindergarten. But you can see as the pages progress, I get better. The skill gets better. And so it's like anything else with crafting, is the more you do it, the more you practice at it, the better you get. Let's see, those pages must have stuck together when I was putting. So I guess these are all different pages. Yep, that's kindergarten. I don't see any picture. Oh, that's the summer. So this is swimming lessons again. Every year we try to give him swimming lessons. And then in his second grade year, he was actually in first grade. He started karate, taekwondo. And so we have pictures of him doing taekwondo. Another form because of his size, he was so small. They encouraged, the medical profession, the doctors, that encouraged us to get him into things that could be more individual sports, because team sports were going to be a little bit more difficult for him because of his height at that point in time. So, and he was interested in taekwondo. So, yes, this young man at the age of 10 had a black belt. He had a level 1 black belt. And so this is when he lost his first tooth. So I'll be able to come back in here and add a page with the tooth. I'll have to, so you can see this is first grade. Let me see if but in first grade, I started getting scrapbook kits, more scrapbook paper, rather than just doing things with, here's another belt, another belt achievement for karate. So I started, just capturing all of that. And as I expanded, like I said, there's 4 of these. 2 of these are this full. This is book 2. Here's the picture of first grade class where you could see his size compared to the other kids. So he was still about a foot smaller than the other kids. And he was one of the things that I remember when he was going to this school in first grade. He went first grade, second grade. And we kept getting called into the teacher and the principal of the school kept calling me in saying, I'd go in and pick him up, and Mrs. Hartman, Blake is getting the girls to carry him up the stairs. So there was like stairs in the school. So the gym on the bottom, and then above the gym there was like a lunchroom, and they had to go upstairs to get to the lunchroom. And so he would con the little girls into actually lifting or carrying him up the stairs, and he would say, my legs are just so tired, I can't get up the stairs. And so the little girls would take mercy on him and of course be little mothers and carry him up the stairs. So I am not sure at the age of 6, 7 years old he ever climbed a set of stairs, because and we kept talking to him from the just like in the car ride home or when we were at home, saying you can't do that, you need to walk the stairs yourself. And then other times he would manipulate the little girls in his class to do his math homework, because at that point in time, even though he had the aptitude to do it, he just didn't like math. He had it in his brain. He didn't like to do the math. And so he would convince the little girls to do the math for him. And so every day that they had math, I would get, Mrs. Hartman, can I speak with you? And so he would then have to do extra math pages at home because he wasn't doing his math at school. But so I opted to, I'll have to fix that. But so all of these pages are 8.5 by 11, and I put them in protector sheets because it was a little bit easier for me to manage. And with so many pictures and pages, I felt it was easier to do the 8.5 by 11 pages instead of the 12 by 12s. Oh, hi, honey. Good morning. My husband's joining us, and he says, "Great job, babe." Thank you. So, and then he had a little girl that he was sweet on, and so they would come over and have play dates and things like that at the house, or he would go over there, and he'd gotten a ring in one of those like quarter machines where you can put a quarter in and you get a little like egg thing, and he got like this little plastic ring, so he gave her the little plastic ring. And so I took pictures and scrapbooked it, because when you ask him now at the age of 22, he doesn't remember any of it. So it was great that I ended up both my husband and I ended up taking pictures and kind of recording a lot of these different things. And I know that you typically do that for maybe your first child and second child and third child, get fewer and fewer pictures. And I know that was true with my parents. Unfortunately for us, we couldn't have another child after his birth, because they had said that I had more than a greater than 50% chance of not surviving. And my husband's like, "Ooh, I'm not raising a family without you." So So I just created, and I had started collecting. It's kind of hard for you to see, but there's the laugh. Those are in like an extra dimension, so a 2D kind of 3D. They kind of puff out, and they have the puffy stickers behind them. So as I started going and building more and spending more time doing it, the level of skill just continued to develop. And, the pages look a little bit more, and I don't want to say, but they just look better. They look better than what they started with. And so I started creating and cutting letters out of the Cricut a little bit more as I started to learn and get a little bit more comfortable, and had found creative little stickers to go on to the page for the theme, whatever it was. This one was the fair. So I used the animal paper in the background for like the farm, because we have like a petting zoo at the fair here every year in August. And so we took them to the petting zoo. We had, or we still have, one of them is still alive, but we had some neighbors that kind of adopted him, as, even though he had grandparents, or he has grandparents, the grandparents both live far enough away that there wasn't enough opportunity to spend time with, an older couple. And they took up with him. They loved on him, and they took him to things that at that point in time, we, didn't have tons of money, and, but we did, the best that we could with him. And they actually took him to things that we wouldn't have been able to afford. So he was very blessed from that perspective. We were very blessed from that perspective, and had a really great relationship with them as he was growing up and being able to. This is like some more of those. So he rode the carnival rides at the carnival, and I tried to kind of capture the essence of what the pages were by creating the letters, and cutting them out. A lot of the times, if I knew the timing, or the year and the month, at least, that we did the activity, I may not know the dates fully, but I would try to put dates on things, so that not only helped me put things in order for him, but it'll help him in his memories when he goes through and looks at these. And it'll be something that he'll have when he has kids of his own. He'll be able to share those with him. And we went to Knott's Berry Farm, so I had created some pages with the Knott's Berry Farm trip that we went with. And then we got an opportunity, that older couple that had kind of adopted him as his, as kind of his grandparents that were local, ended up taking us all to Disneyland, in California. And so I started creating pages, and some of them, so I alternated. You can kind of see on this one, there's the paper has kind of a Disney theme to it, and then the pictures, and then I alternated it with just some blue scrapbook paper, had some stickers. Of course, when you're there at Disney, you can buy all of the Disney stickers that you want, but I only picked up the memory stickers. So it's just you can see the paper. It has, the different Disney things at the top, but, and we kind of photo mapped the entire journey. And so, and then of course we had one of those big photos that I stuck in there. It comes out of the sheet, and I'll show you. You can take opening it from the wrong side. You can take the photos. So we had a couple photos taken. Him with Mickey and Minnie, and he was hugging Minnie. And then we had the whole group of us in the Disney photos. And so I figured that those are things that he might want, you know, as he gets older and is able to share them with his family. Because I have faith that one day he will. I'll put that back in. I don't want to. So, and as you see, and as I flip through, the pages get, like I said, a little bit more skillful. You can start seeing my skill and abilities for scrapbooking compared to what they were in the very beginning. My son was in love with the princesses, and so when we were there, he had to have all of his photos with all of the princesses. We got to do one of those breakfasts that a character breakfast, and so he got to meet a lot of the characters. But then you had to go to this. If you've not been to Disneyland before, at that point in time, we had to go to a special area where a lot of the princesses were, and you could stand in line, and several of the princesses would appear. Well, he was in love with all of the princesses, and so he had to have his photo with all of the princesses. We happened to run into Peter Pan and Wendy, and so they were walking through the park or something, and he got his picture taken with Peter Pan and Wendy. And of course, yes, we had an autograph book, so he got everybody's autograph. To this day, we have them. Don't know where it's at, but we have them. I think it's probably in one of the boxes in his room. And then Ariel was his favorite, the Little Mermaid. And so he was super excited to be able to see her. And you could see he's not very big in those pictures. And so a lot of the characters had to, you know, she was quite tall. And so she sat down to be at his level, which I thought was really sweet. And I know that that's part of their training. But, and then Belle, he got to see Belle and meet Belle, get his picture taken with Belle. And so that was, I think, big moments in his life. And there's lots of pages on Disney because, you know, when you're there for 2 or 3 days, there's lots of rides and lots of, you know, so this was the Winnie the Pooh ride that he went on. And so he liked the Pirates of the Caribbean, so we did everything that he could go on height-wise, we did. We took every opportunity to do everything that he wanted because he had such a height limitation. And there were things that he wanted to do, like roller coasters and things that, because he was the right age, but his size was the limit. He had to be like 48 inches tall, and he wasn't quite there yet. And that was even the year that we bought him those shoes that had the roller skates in them. But they had a lift of like a 2-inch sole on them. But then when you add the rollers, you could pop yourself up to be a little bit taller. But they caught on to us, and it made him take the rollers down. Even with the 2-inch lift in the sole, he wasn't tall enough to go into all of those bigger rides. So later in the years, we ended up having to, we did not have to. We chose to take him back so that he could go on a lot of those bigger rides. And we didn't get a chance to do, we only did Disneyland at that point in time, and we hadn't had a chance to go to the California Adventures in California, or whatever, California Land, or whatever it's called, that the park that's right next to it. And so a lot of these are then pictures of when we went into that park as just a family, the three of us. and things that he got an opportunity to do at a younger age. And then it goes into like his, when he was in second grade, and I tried to capture as many school photos as I could. He had to do a project. I still have the book that he did, the toucan project, but I saved some of that and scrapbooked some of that so that he could do that. So these were just requirements of the project. He had to do a presentation on the toucan, and then he had to have a handout. And so we did a research and found in a book a coloring page, and we made copies of it. And this was the paper that it had to be typed out. And so, of course, parents have to type them out. And this was all of the requirements of the project. And his grade is on a page back here. So all of that I had, I'm going to have to shift the book so I can get the pages. But that's 2 out of the 4 books. The other 2 books are not very, they're the same thing. They're binders, but there's not tons of pages in them because I have pictures, but it takes a lot of time to sort through the pictures, figure out, which part of his life that was. And so I have some of that here. So later in my crafting day with the girls, I'll take the opportunity to do some of that and start putting together groupings for pages that I can create, and maybe we'll scrapbook some of them in the future. But I didn't have a craft plan today, but I did want to show you kind of what I spent the first 20 years of my life doing in the crafting world. And paper crafting was my first love, and that's kind of how it got me into the crafting. I have a creative streak anyway, because I graduated from college with a graphic design degree. And so art has always been something that has been a love and a passion of mine. But at this point in time, so I don't have anything else that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to see if there was any prayer requests. If you have a prayer request, I'm happy to pray for you. There wasn't tons of comments today, but I appreciate you coming in and watching and listening to me drone on about the scrapbook pages in my son's life, because he has truly been a blessing, and he has been, he's a miracle child. And maybe in the future I'll tell the full testimony about what had happened during that time, because there was a lot of God's hands in our lives. We didn't necessarily know it at the time, but when you look back, it was very, very evident. So anyway, if there aren't any prayer requests, I'm going to go ahead and close. I'll close in a prayer, if that's okay, and we will then convene until another day. Stay tuned next Saturday, a week from today, the 29th. I will be doing an auction, kind of middle of the day for everybody, so that hopefully we have a lot of attendees. And we'll have an auction to be able to raise money for my husband's mission. All the proceeds will go toward his mission, except for the shipping. But I'll go over all of the details and the rules at the beginning of the auction. So if it's for a good cause. If you are looking for some Christmas gifts or something, it's absolutely an opportunity for you to take advantage of getting some Christmas gifts early and helping out for a good cause. So I'll talk more about that particular mission. But anyway, I I wanted to just wish everybody a wonderful Saturday, and I'm going to go ahead and close in prayer. Oh, dear Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to go live. I thank you for the provision and the time that you have given us together as a family. I thank you for the opportunity to minister to others through testimony, Lord, and showing a little bit about my scrapbooking history as well as my son's life, because whether he likes it or not, he has become an open book, Lord, and we just ask that you bless both my son, who is in these books, and his life has been mapped out, Lord, and we just ask that you bless everyone that is on this video today. Walk with them throughout their day, Lord. Protect them, keep them safe, and I just ask that everyone have a wonderful, loving day and feel that big hug from you, Lord. In your name I pray, amen. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on and watching. And I just wish you a blessed Saturday. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.